everybody, it's Lisa Bradley of Pretty Green Plant Things, the place for fun, information, and passion regarding all things green. And today I wanted to talk about repotting, which for new plant parents and for established plant parents can be very daunting. I can tell you for myself, some of the most rapid decline I've seen in plant well-being has been after repotting. The process itself can be very stressful for the plant, and so I've learned through, I would say, hundreds of repotting, just some tips that I'd like to share with you. Now, I will tell you, for me, the plants that have the most distress with repotting have been begonias and calatheas. So begonias have very fine, tender roots, and calathea, they're usually pretty root bound when you take them out. And I've found when you separate those roots, it stresses the plant out. So for both of those type of plants, I keep a ball of soil compact around the root ball. So I minimize the manipulation of the roots. But for other plants, I have a general routine that I utilize for repotting. The first is that I hydrate the plant usually a couple of days prior to repotting to make sure that the plant is well hydrated. Any drooping or stress to the leaves from dehydration has resolved, and that you basically have an optimized plant prior to repotting. The other thing is that if it's warm outside, I try and do the repotting outdoors in a shaded area. And I do it out on the lawn. I'll either put maybe some cardboard down or newspaper, or sometimes I just do it straight on the grass. This way I get a chance to disrupt the roots, take a good look at the roots, irrigate out the roots. I just use a light setting with the hose, and I inspect the roots thoroughly. So if there are very long roots, I'll trim them back. If there are any signs of root rot, sometimes you can start to see the beginning of an issue when you are repotting, and sometimes that's the reason why you are repotting. So I take a look at the roots, trim back any non-viable roots, and then I go up 2 inches in planter pot size. So if I'm starting with a 4-inch, I go up to a 6-inch, 6-inch to 8-inch, etc. But I try not to go up larger than that, because if you do, then you have all of this soil and it's very hard for the water and the oxygen to get to the roots. So a more compact surface is better for the plants. Then they can adjust to that little bit increase in size, and it usually helps them in terms of preventing a lot of stress. The other thing is, so my indications for repotting. So the first is increased water requirement or frequency. So oftentimes, I know what my plant schedule is. So I'll, if it's a calathea, my calathea usually like to be watered every 10 days or so. So if I'm going in this room here, and all of a sudden there's one plant that wants to be repotted and is having drooping leaves or whatever every 5 to 7 days or every 4 days, it's usually because it's growing rapidly and it needs to be repotted. Or sometimes it's that the soil has resorbed over time and it needs to be repotted. So and that's one of the indications is increased water requirement or decreased frequency or increased frequency in watering requirements. The other thing is sometimes you're dropping leaves at an increased frequency, so yellow or browning leaves. 1 or 2 every month or so is fine, but if you're finding that every time you're watering or every week that there's more and more yellow and brown leaves, that's a sign that something is probably wrong. And usually what it is root rot. So if you find that you're having yellow and brown leaves at an increased frequency, absolutely please make sure that you inspect the soil. And when I inspect the soil, I just repot. I just, if even if I don't upsize, I change out the soil. So if there's any indication that there's root rot or there's a fungal infection from too much moisture, please exchange out the soil. You will save yourself a lot of heartache, because what happens is if you look and it's just a little teeny tiny area of root rot and you think, oh, it's not too bad. And then what happens is you put it back in that same soil, and then 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, you're back with the same problem. So please consider just exchanging out the soil. And if you find that you have root rot or fungal infection or any pests when you do your inspection, please make sure that you treat the pot. So whether you're using a fungicide for mold, or if you have spider mites or mealybugs, whatever it is, please make sure that you treat the pot, clean it out thoroughly. I spray down the exterior, the interior, the saucer, everything. Because invariably, if you have a pest or you have some type of infection and you don't clean that pot and then you put the plant back in there, even with new soil, you're going to have a recurrence of whatever the issue is. The water requirements, inspecting the roots, suspicion of root rot. Sometimes you just want to change the pot out because you have a new planter pot or you're changing the aesthetics of your home. That's absolutely fine. But when you do that, please make sure that you inspect, even if you don't plan on going up in the pot size, or you feel like everything is fine. Just take a look, just quickly, brush off the roots, take a look, make sure that everything is okay, because I can tell you that when I have transferred a plant out for an aesthetic reason or whatever, I have found that, oh my goodness, I have a couple of mealybugs on here, or there's webbing, indicating that there's probably spider mites. So take a look. The other thing is, when you do your repotting, don't just look at the roots. Look at the stems, look at the leaves, any blooms, because once again, I have found things just accidentally while I was doing other care. So I hope this really helps in terms of repotting. I'll show some images along the way of this post, just some images of looking at healthy roots and different planter pot sizes. The other thing for me is that I've started to use clear pots, because that way I can see the moisture accumulation in the soil. I can see the condensation on the wall of the planter pots. That gives me some signs that the plant needs to be watered. So it's just been another great tool for me. So my favorite planter pots right now are the clear plastic pots. Terracotta, of course, I just love. I think they're very elegant and simple, and the plants thrive well in the terracotta planter pots. I still use ceramic, and sometimes, like I have a couple of philodendron right now that are still in the plastic nursery pots from where the nursery or the grocery store. And if the plant's doing well and you don't see any signs of issues, leave them in there. I have a calathea. Let's see where it is. Oh, you can't see it in this shot, but I've had it in the same plastic planter pot for about a year. It loves it. I don't want to disrupt its environment because it's thriving. So if you have a plant and it's doing well, I err on the side of conservatism. So I just kind of leave things alone and let things thrive, or let things let me know, let the plants let me know that they need a little bit more evaluation and treatment. So I hope this helps. Please make sure that you comment on what you like to do for plant repotting, and I'll see you guys at the next post. Peace.